You all know. Okay, good. Yeah, augmented 6 chords.
I want to learn about the German chord.
I know you're excited, right?
Yes.
Chapter 22, by the way, in our textbook, augmented 6 chords. And like with other chromatic harmony that I've introduced, I relate it to diatonic harmony that you're already familiar with. So we're going to start with that and then go from there. So write this down, this progression in the key of C minor. That will be familiar to you. It's going to be a 4 chord in first inversion, going to 5. And we'll see kind of how this progression evolved into the augmented 6 chord that we're going to focus on for the rest of class today. So I'll give you a moment to write this down. See if it's a little darker. Yeah. All right, you all have it written down? C. All right. And just listen to that one more time. You can hear the sort of inevitability to the dominant, right, and then resolving it. So, eventually, composers started to add a chromatic passing tone, in this case in the soprano voice, from F through F sharp to G, intensifying that motion to the dominant.
It almost sounds wrong.
Yeah, it's creating more half-step motion from this progression to this, from 4 to 5, right? We have the half-step motion in the bass, right? A flat moving down half-step to G, and now we have this half-step chromatic motion from F sharp to G, in this case, the soprano voice. Now, eventually, composers just dropped the F altogether and just wrote in the F sharp,
Now it's really
making it
sound.
sound,
Like, what?
making it sound perhaps less like a passing motion and more of a part of a chord. And that sounds like this. Right? You all can hear where it wants to go. Right? And eventually resolve the tonic. But what is this interval between A flat and F sharp?
That's the augmented tritone.
It's not a tritone.
I almost said, I'm sorry.
But I did hear the right answer. Yeah, Manuel? Yeah, that interval right here is an augmented 6th interval. And that's where the name augmented 6th chord, that's where that name is derived from, is this characteristic distinct interval that occurs in tonal music between between scale degree 6 in the bass and raised scale degree 4 in one of the upper voices. You're going to get that augmented 6th interval. Yes.
What are the? Is there any specific voicing that is necessary in order to get this augmented 6? Wait, was that what you were just talking?
Yeah, to get this augmented 6th interval, the augmented 6 chords, which we haven't talked about what this is specifically yet, is that to get this augmented 6th interval for this particular type of augmented 6th chord, you're going to have scale degree 6 in the bass and raise scale degree 4 in one of the upper voices. Now, it's possible that augmented 6th chords are used in a more expanded context than what we're going to be looking at in this class, but for the most part, what we're going to be looking at is augmented 6th chords moving to 5 in this particular way, with scale degree 6 in the bass voice. Scale degree 6 from the minor mode in the bass voice. And that brings me to, first of all, I just want to give you some general information. We're going to be going over 3 types of augmented 6 chords. All right, the Italian, French, and German. All 3 of them are going to have several things in common. They all want to do the same thing. They all want to go to 5. They all want to go to the dominant. And they all could possibly go to that chord that you all know delays motion to the dominant. The cadential 6/4. Thank you. So they can go straight to 5 or to the cadential 6/4, just like any predominant chord. Okay? And we'll get to that later, to the, how this would move to the cadential 6/4. So we have the Italian, French, and German. They are all going to have this augmented 6th interval in them. They're all going to have scale degree 6 from the minor mode in the bass voice. Now notice I'm talking about these chords in a slightly different way than I've talked about chords in the past. It's a departure in many respects. You're used to thinking of chords in terms of chordal roots, right? Chordal thirds, chordal fifths, chordal sevenths.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be doing that with the augmented 6 chords anymore. So that's kind of a big leap from previous topics to this topic. We're not going to be thinking in terms of chordal roots anymore. We're going to be thinking more in terms of scale degrees, all right, and that augmented 6th interval, right? If you encounter a chromatic chord and you see scale degree 6 from the minor mode in the bass and raised scale degree 4 in one of the upper voices, it's most likely that augmented 6th chord. All right, so instead of, yes? Is there a question? It happens in a major as well, but it's more common in a minor key because there are less chromatic pitches involved. We could write this exact same sonority in a major key, but it would have, there'd be more chromaticism involved. We'd have an A-flat. And as we get into the other types of augmented 6 chords, we'll see that there'd be even more chromaticism potentially as well. This one happens to be called the Italian augmented 6. And we're not going to be using Roman numerals in the traditional sense. We're just going to label this IT plus 6. And we'll talk about how the Italian augmented 6 chord is formed, constructed right now. Okay? So, but first of all, the Italian, French, and German, they're all going to have this scale degree 6 from the minor mode in the bass voice. Scale degree 6 from the minor mode in the bass, whether it's the Italian, French, or German. They will all have raised scale degree 4 in one of the upper voices somewhere. I happen to put it in the soprano in this example, but it could be the alto or tenor. Raised scale degree 4 in one of the upper 3 voices.
Could it be possible that you use, well, I guess we could in this case it would be the Italian. Could it be possible that you use something like the Italian augmented 6 chord to like sort of like lean into like tonicizing the 5 for a little bit? Because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's resolving to the 5 when you have that leading tone motion. And I don't know, like it's just something that occurred to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of putting it, tonicizing 5. I haven't really heard that word in conjunction with the augmented 6 chords, but I know what you mean. It has an inevitable motion to 5, like a secondary dominant of 5 would, right? Or the secondary leading tone chord of 5 would, right? It tends to be used, though, as just a way to emphasize motion to the dominant, which would eventually, presumably, lead to 1 or accentuate a half cadence. It's often used, and I didn't mention this in the previous class, is that these augmented 6 chords are often used in important structural moments in a piece of music. It really draws the listener's attention to this big moment. Okay, we're about to land on this big dominant chord. When I say big dominant chord, I mean one that's probably going to be drawn out for a while. You know, here we are in this dominant of a new key, and we're going to modulate now. It's like highlighting it in a certain way, highlighting certain moments in the structure in a certain way that can be really effective. But it's a great question. Scale degree 6 from the minor mode in the bass voice. We're also going to have raised scale degree 4 in one of the upper 3 voices. It doesn't have to be the soprano. It could be the alto or bass. Sorry. Not the alto or bass. The alto or tenor, right? So it's soprano, alto, or tenor. So that takes care of 2 of the voices, right? And the Italian, French, and German will all include scale degree 1. That's a good way of writing this. All 3 will include scale degree 1. So notice I'm not using words like quartal root, quartal third, quartal fifth. I'm thinking of this in terms of scale degrees, which is a departure, and a significant one, granted. Notice that this Italian augmented 6th chord does have that scale degree 6 from the minor mode in the bass. It has raised scale degree 4, and it has scale degree 1. It just happens to have 2 of them, which means there's how many pitch classes here? Different pitch classes. How many different pitches? 3. So that's what's going to be a departure for the French and German, is that those 2 augmented 6th chords are going to have 4 pitch classes. It's going to have the same exact 3 as the Italian, plus an additional note. So you can think of the French augmented 6th chord as the Italian augmented 6th chord plus this additional note. You can think of the German augmented 6th chord as the Italian plus an additional note. All right. So for example, if I wanted to write the French augmented 6th chord, I might start by writing the Italian first, at least in part. I'd write those 3 pitch classes. It looks like the Italian, just in 3 voices instead of 4. So again, I go back here. The French is just like the Italian. It has scale degree 6 from the minor mode in the bass, raised scale degree 4 in one of the upper voices. Again, the soprano in this particular example. And it also has scale degree 1, just like the Italian. Now the additional note that I'm going to add to the French, or the note that I'm going to add to the Italian to get the French augmented 6th chord, is going to be scale degree 2. So you can think of the Italian augmented 6th chord plus scale degree 2 equals the French. It's really great math, right? Sometimes I wish math teachers would come to theory classes. Yeah?
So when it becomes a 7.
Ah, I'm so glad you said that. Thank you. This looks deceptively like a chord that we've already studied. It's not, because of the key signature. But if you forget about the key signature of A flat, and you think this is A natural, what would you end up calling this if you forget about the key signature? Ooh, you're on the right track. Was that Lynn? It's a major minor 7th chord. You're exactly right. It would be a major minor 7th chord. It'd be 5, 4, 3 of what?
You had the right.
Oh.
If you were misreading it.
D
Yeah, I see what
G.
Yeah, of 5. There you go. Right? That's if you're misreading the chord slightly and forgetting about the key signature, that there's an A flat in there. Right? You'd have to think of that as A natural, which it's not.
So would it become augmented 6, 5? We just ignore that.
You know, you're not wrong, actually. You're not wrong. In terms of figured bass symbols, that kind of thinking will be helpful, and we'll get to that maybe not today, we might not have time, but we'll get to the figured bass symbols. But thinking of it in that way is going to be actually quite helpful. All right. And then let's just do the German, which is going to be just like the Italian plus an additional scale degree. This is the French. Yes?
So when you're, not note, what's the word? When you're analyzing the Italian augmented chord, do you have the plus by the I plus the plus 6?
Oh yeah, that is confusing, isn't it? No, it's a T.
Oh, that's a T.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. Totally understandable. Yeah, IT for Italian.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, I wish I could do that better.
It's fine.
I don't know how to, I don't know how to write in like, yeah, I know, I don't know how to write in different fonts.
I put a curl on mine.
What is that?
You
A
can
curl?
make the curl T.
A curl T.
You can make the tail longer.
Oh, that's fine.
It's like that? Is that what you do?
No, the other way.
The other way.
The other way.
Now that's fine, Jenny.
Ah!
All right. There, problem solved. There we go.
It's a good movie.
Now you have no problems with augmented 6 chords now that that's been taken care
Everything's
of.
solved.
Everything's solved. Lecture's over. Okay. All right, so the German augmented 6 chord is going to be the Italian plus scale degree 3 from the minor mode. I can rewrite these key signatures through that. All right. Ger plus 6. Ger augmented 6. Ger. Yeah. Ger. It's probably a fitting emotional response. All right. So, now I don't know if this is helpful for any of you, but when I was a graduate student at TA, one of my students, she came up to me and said, she said, I remember the difference between the Italian, French, and German by a quasi-acronym called I for get. How does that work? Well, gosh, the I stands for scale degree 1 of the Italian.
Oh.
The FR is for the French, scale degree 2. It's like counting 1, 2, 3, and then the get, the GE, is her way of remembering the German, means you add scale degree 3.
Oh, because that's the first, second, and third syllable.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, it might connect for some of you. So.
Still has a click.
Yeah, so happened in the last class too. So I was like, it just threw them off even more. So
That's actually kind of smart.
there you
I
go.
like that.
Yeah, there you go. So if it works for you, write it down. Just remember, it's scale degree 3 from the minor mode, not from the major mode.
What about for the French? Is it scale degree 2 from the minor mode, or is it?
Ah, it's a great question. It just happens to be that scale degree 2 would be the same in either the major or the minor.
And could they like swap, like, I know you did the A, C, D, F chart, but could it also be like the A, D, oh, I guess the note swap.
You can voice the upper 3 voices any way you
Anyway,
want.
okay.
It's just the bass that's the most, usually it's scale degree 6 from the minor mode, and that tends to be the most common.
So the function of an augmented 6 chord, I guess, would be like, it's a predominant then?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely a good point to emphasize that as much as possible. It is a predominant chord. Its purpose in life is it's intensifying motion to that dominant. It's taking a sonority that we already know wants to go to the dominant, like that minor 4/6 chord, and it's creating more half-step motion, driving the music even more into the dominant. making it more inevitable, right? So here's the French. I went to the cadential 6/4 then. All right, and so let's get to the voice leading for a moment here, because there's going to be a problem when we get to the German. But let's focus on this augmented sixth interval in the Italian. It's resolving a particular way. It's moving a particular way. That is a common feature of all the augmented sixth chords, is that that augmented sixth interval tends to resolve outward by step to an octave. So you can see the A flat's moving down by step to G, and the F sharp's moving up by step to G. So that augmented sixth tends to resolve out by octave. You can tell I've been teaching for a while today. I'm starting to mix up my syllables. Octave, right? We're surrounding scale degree 5 by half steps above and below, from A flat and G sharp, right? It's just begging to go to scale degree 5, which is one of the more stable scale degrees in our scale, right? So that's going to occur in the French and the German as well. Now, when we go to the dominant 7th chord, the 5/7 chord, this won't necessarily happen, but that's beyond the scope of our study for today, all right? But when we go to the dominant triad, or we go to the cadential 6/4, that augmented sixth chord is probably going to resolve out to the octave, all right? And then we have a common tone here with the French and the 5 chord. And of course, we have to remember to raise our leading tone, minor key. But what's going to happen when we go to the 5 chord from the German? We're still going to have that augmented sixth move out to the octave, but I'm wondering if you can provide those two inner voices. There's going to be an issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Ah, parallel what? Consecutive parallel fifths? Ah, you're right. Between what voices?
The bass and the alto.
Yeah. Parallel fifths, that's the problem. Now there are instances, and we'll look at some of these next week, where Mozart just flat out has the parallel perfect fifths. You'll enjoy seeing it. You'll enjoy seeing it. And then there's other instances where he goes directly to the 5 from the German augmented sixth, but he goes through all sorts of melodic elaborations to avoid having it sound like consecutive perfect fifths. Like he's trying to find unique ways to avoid that consecutive perfect fifth. But because of this voice leading situation, it's why the German augmented sixth chord tends to pass through our friend, where a lot of our predominants tend to go, which delay motion to the 5 chord, to the, say it, here, the cadential 6/4. You're all over that. That's awesome. And we know that the cadential 6/4 tends to have what note doubled? The fifth of the chord, or the bass voice, yeah. And it creates two common tones with the German augmented sixth chord, right? Works really nicely, and then we know that this would go to 5 after that.
So our German chords pretty much, or German augmented sixth chords, that pretty much always go to the cadential sixth chord.
Yeah, that's right. And any of these can go to the cadential 6/4.
Right, but
Yeah,
whereas
but
this
the
one, it
German
makes more sense
has
to-
to.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no voice leading issue with the Italian or the French going directly to 5, but there is with the German. There's the augmented. Sorry, there's the cadential 6/4. All right, so this is really the core of the lecture that I want you to kind of take in today. All right, your homework assignment won't involve voice leading. It's going to involve writing these chords in different keys just to get familiar with them. Yeah, exactly. You won't have to do any voice leading until next week. but I like to kind of throw a lot at you in the initial lecture and then do a lot of review in subsequent classes after that. So today's really no different. I just want to take this to the next level so you can kind of see how special this German augmented sixth chord can be potentially. All right, I want to do this just by playing the sonority in the piano without any context to see if you can hear how this chord sounds like something else we have studied. The German augmented sixth chord sounds like something else that you know already. All right, so let's give it a try. What does that sound like? Do you know that chord?
Are we choosing between Italian?
Ah, what is that, Lynn?
What's the question?
I'm so lost.
Are we choosing between Italian and vegetable?
What is that?
Are we choosing between?
No, I didn't really state it clearly. I'm focusing on this sonority here. This German augmented sixth chord sounds like something else we have studied
Like a
before.
secondary.
Yeah, like a leading tone.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's what I was
What is
thinking.
that?
Way to say it.
Secondary dominant.
It sounds like a secondary dominant, or it just sounds like a dominant. What? That's crazy.
Oh, it's because there's an A flat. It's like major, and then it sounds like there's like an extra note on top. Whenever that's actually the root of it.
You're on the right track.
I was just so focused
think
on
I
the right
see it.
I was just so focused on the right. That's all I do, right?
So let me just write this chord out.
Scratch my head.
So you're on the right track. The issue is that F sharp. What if we don't spell it like an F sharp?
Oh, you say a G flat. Oh, okay.
Now it looks like something more familiar.
Neat.
It sounds like something you know. It sounds like a major minor seventh chord. Right? Sounds like the major minor seventh chord of what key?
D, flat.
Yeah.
Oh.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's different notes. It's just
Yeah,
the
it's
same
not only how
pitches.
it's written, but how the voice leading is going to work too. How would this resolve to D flat?
Carefully.
You know this already. The
You
chordal seventh would resolve
down,
down,
leading
down,
down.
Leading tone resolves up.
Or could go down to
Or
C major
rounded
voice.
Yeah.
So that G flat is resolving down here. The F sharp here. So yeah, it's behaving differently here. F sharp's resolving out by step. Whoa. So what does that mean exactly? It means that really, if you're a composer, you can really mess with people. You can make any major minor seventh chord behave like a German augmented sixth chord.
That's crazy. It's funny that you mentioned this because I just noticed I played a piece where there was a German augmented sixth chord, and it actually changed keys too, in like the same manner that you just brought up, like the exact same manner.
Ah,
And I never knew anything about it.
the
It
piece
just
that you're
went-
playing?
It was this summer, but it went from F major to B flat. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It just like it's making me think of the exact same thing right now.
Cool.
It's really cool.
Here's the cadential 6/4. Here's that dominant. In D flat, I'm really leaving it in C sharp minor, the same thing, right? C sharp. But then I'm not gonna have it do this, okay? I'm not gonna have it. Oh gosh, I lost where I was. Oh, okay, here. Right, there's where it goes to C sharp minor or D flat minor. Or why I should keep it in major, that's where I am, okay. It just works better in minor, but here we go.
Pass.
I'm in C minor. Piece of cake. D flat major to C minor, right? But here it is. Right, in D flat, problem, right? Now I'm going to do it like a German augmented sixth. And you can just keep going. So,
This one's the coolest.
anyways, it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
And conversely, you could make any German augmented sixth chord not behave like a German augmented sixth chord. You could have it behave like a dominant. But it's a great way to kind of modulate to a distantly related key and do it smoothly. All right, we've got 10 minutes. So let's get some practice just writing some of these chords out in different keys